Hello, and welcome to Fintech Surge Podcast, creating a wealth of opportunities through fintech innovations in the Middle East for the Middle East. Powered by Fintech Surge, the region's leading fintech festival, hosted by Dubai World Trade Center alongside GITEX Global. My name is Steven. I'm your host today, and we're joined today by Paul Nilsen and Tamer Al Mauge from Codebase Technologies. Thanks for joining us, gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Stephen. Nice to be here.
Yeah, just a quick introduction. Oh, thank you so much. Just a quick introduction. Paul Nilsen is actually the Codebase Technologies Managing Director for Africa, CIS and Global SaaS, and has 25 years of fintech payments and technology experience across conventional and Islamic markets. Tamer has worked in the fintech industry for the past 17 years and is Codebase Technologies Managing Director for the MENA region and Pakistan. Tamer was actually the founding member of Easy Financial Services, Besse, helping launch a first of its kind worldwide biometric payment network, and is Central Bank of Bahrain approved person. Payment network integrating with existing financial institution systems and providing the market with a non-traditional payment solutions on biometric with an impressive track record over many years in the financial technology space. Tamer is a CBB, Central Bank of Bahrain approved person, and has strong relation with both government and private sectors in Bahrain, Jordan, Iraq, and beyond. Quite impressive CVs you got there, gentlemen.
Cheers,
Thank you very much, Stephen.
And so, just for those who are not familiar with Codebase, do you mind telling us a little bit more about what Codebase does?
Sure, Stephen, let me jump in here. So basically, Codebase Technology is one of the fastest growing open API banking providers. Everything that you talk about today is around open API because the world is moving digital. Everybody needs to be able to quickly and easily integrate into various touch points. So everything needs to be based around open API. So you bring everything together in one space. We're currently operating across 4 continents. And to make it easy and put it into layman's terms, what we basically do is we take people into the digital realm. So whether you're a neobank or a challenger bank going fully digital, whether you're a legacy bank looking to digitize a section of your bank and maybe grow in the digital realm while you don't focus too much on your brick and mortar structure. As everybody knows, with COVID, people don't go into banking halls anymore. So you need to reinvent yourself. And the way to reinvent yourself is in the front end, in the digital realm. And then thirdly, we also look at fintech disruptors. There's a lot of fintech disruptors coming around now, providing banking, financial or non-financial services. So we help them talk to their customers and remain relevant with them. And then we've also got a very keen eye, the 4 continents we work on, we've got a very keen eye on financial inclusion in developing markets and how we can assist with financial inclusion and financial literacy.
That's amazing. Tamer, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I mean, what interests me the most in a few countries within the MENA region, and as Paul mentioned, financial inclusion. That's a big thing, and currently we're working on a project that addresses that more specifically in the Levant region. Iraq, to be more specific and to zoom in, you have around 40 million people, and a big chunk of that are unbanked. And we're working on a value proposition that will address and be able to, have that outreach. So yes, exciting times ahead of us, and I think technology today is financial institutions being receptive, working hand in hand, is making that a reality on the ground.
Absolutely. And I think that, the both of you touched on 2 major key themes that we're really seeing in the fintech industry. One is just the impact that COVID-19 has had and will continue to have pretty much indefinitely. There was a time where obviously we couldn't leave our houses. We didn't want to go around other people, and we certainly didn't want to touch things that other people have touched. And so, fintech really has come to really shine in that space where, with COVID-19, it's made, kind of the world safer and it is really kind of brought to the spotlight the importance of a lot of these technologies. And now that thank God we're kind of moving towards a safer world, and the COVID scare is a little bit smaller now. We're still noticing that fintech that COVID has kind of taught us the lesson that this is something that is going to change for the future. And then also financial inclusion. Financial inclusion is something that there are a lot of unbanked people in the world, and the more that we can cater to them, the more that people are able to get the typical goods and services that would have only been offered to those who have had access to banking. So there's very important points, and we're seeing a lot of that in fintech these days.
Let's hope we don't get too relaxed after COVID, and just keep those radars on.
Yeah, absolutely, and luckily, with the inclusion of a lot of these fintech technologies, is helping us stay safe, in the long run as well. And so I just kind of wanted to ask you, something we ask all the guests on our podcast is, in your own words, what does fintech actually mean to you?
All right. So basically, fintech is, especially if we look at what you've just discussed around COVID, obviously things have changed, and we all know the cliche, it's not going to go back to what it used to be. So fintech, to me, the most important factor is, how do you remain relevant with your customers, and how do your customers remain relevant with you? Because now there's no face-to-face communication. Now it's through digital channels, through means of mobile or web interfaces. So you need to remain relevant with your customers. You need them to utilize your services. And the most important factor is it's no longer going out into the market and saying, hey guys, I've got 5 million customers in my institution. Onboarding is the first aspect of financial inclusion and of growth. But if you're not monetizing your customers, then you shouldn't be in the business. So remaining relevant with your customers and them remaining relevant with you so that you can monetize the features and offerings to your customers, that to me is what epitomizes fintech.
I think that's great. And staying relevant to your customers and your customers staying relevant to you. I think that over the past 5 or 10 years, we can all name quite a few businesses that have failed to do such a good job of staying relevant to their customers. A lot of the companies we see before, this sort of fintech revolution really took off was, companies sort of, marketing themselves as something that customers need them versus something that customers actually want to go to them. And I think fintech really does kind of bring out the best in businesses and in people. And so maybe you could touch a little bit more. And you're speaking about monetizing your customers, and obviously when you're running a business, that's the name of the game. For me, when I hear monetizing customers, it's more of just kind of giving them access to interact with you in a professional and business relationship. How do you relate to monetizing your customers, so it doesn't sound like we're just trying to extract a lot of money out of everybody?
Yeah, no, true story. If you look at a financial institution that onboards 100 customers, so you've got the customers, but now what products and services are you actually going to offer those customers so that you can remain in business? Remember, if a financial institution or a fintech or a neobank is not making money off the individuals through their products and service offerings, they can't be in business. They actually cannot survive. So the monetizing aspect is basically the survival of our clients, and their way to actually monetize is to provide products and services that are unique or specific to their customer base. So that's the monetizing in a nutshell from my perspective. I'm sure Tamer can elaborate a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, Paul touched on that, and for me, it's going far and way over beyond what traditionally we have in the finance space, right? How do you give people a better control of their own financial lives? With the modern solutions that we're seeing today, things like embedding financial literacy cues into banking applications, just simply making payments socially focused and a little bit more simpler. So, I mean, these things are what comes to mind when you think of fintech.
Absolutely. And I mean, you guys really touched on an important point that, I mean, staying relevant and monetizing your customers, they're all interconnected, right? I mean, we can't monetize our customers if we're not offering relevant products to our customers, and we can't offer relevant products to our customers if we don't have a strong relationship with them in the first place.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yeah. And all of this, I mean, I think that one of the things that FinTech Search, and especially here on the FinTech Search podcast, we're trying to relate to the world is the message that FinTech is actually a tool for growth and a tool for improvement. I think that a lot of the outside looking in might think of FinTech as finance and technology, and they think, well, I'm not in the finance space and I'm not in the technology space, so it doesn't apply to me. But what we really want them to understand is that fintech is creating change in the world for the better. So yeah, I kind of just want to put it up to you guys. What do you think is the most impactful thing that fintech can do to improve lives and change the world?
Well, I can give one point that comes to mind. How do you widening the customers' choices out there? So we're in the technology space and we're customers at the same time. So fintech does help in lowering the initial cost. Needed to set up a bank or even introduce a bank offering. And example of those are neobanks or even challenger banks. These types of setups do touch on the cost. Less than setting up a branch of a bank, for example, with 300 square meter. Or anything in that arena. And many banks, and diversity in banking is offering to give customers more choices once you step into that neo banking arena or as any offering as such. I don't know, Paul. What do you think?
Yes, 100%, Tamer, and that all falls back into economic growth. So if you go back to basics of in the Stone Age where people would barter, and even today in some places, you barter. I'll give you tomatoes, you give me eggs. Now, the more you get people to transact, the more you're going to not only grow them from subsistence to more commercialized farming, for argument's sake, but you're going to grow the economy. So it all comes back down to basics, where these neobanks that Tamer is talking about, you providing products and services that are driving people to transact with each other. And when you transact, you might start in small doses and then you're going to grow into bigger transactions. What happens? You're growing personally, like Tamer said, you're managing your wealth, and you're also growing the economy and your GDP of the country, etc., etc. So it's a whole spin-off, but coming down to basics to say, let's start at the lowest of low, the mediums, the highs. You can go across the board and you can just get everybody to start transacting in the way they want to, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, I mean, also, yeah, since we, Stephen, you touched on previously, and we talked about financial inclusion. You cannot not take that into consideration. So one of the most powerful things, about this fintech space is the ability in which, we can elevate people's lives and make those financial services more accessible to those people, and build their financial literacy. We think, that's one of the greatest benefits of fintech, for mankind.
That's amazing. And I mean, we can definitely see, fintech really is all around us. And it is really, we use financial inclusion. And it's important that, our listeners understand that financial inclusion genuinely is a game changer for a lot of people who, have never had this access to banking, to transactions, to just sort of digital banking. And it's very, very important when it comes to forming relationships and, especially running a business and providing for your families. So let me ask you, what do you think is the one problem in fintech that you would love to see solved by an innovator, or just an entrepreneur? What do you think that you would like to see in the next few years solved that hasn't been solved yet?
Can I just say something about this one?
Of course.
I was having a chat with Paul yesterday, and funny enough, we touched upon this. And when you're in the business itself, you're like zoomed in, and sometimes you need to step out of that circle and see things from a 30,000 foot view. And I was telling Paul, you ask people around you, and I was sitting with my wife, and I'm like, listen, what do you think we need to see something being invented that would cater in that space? And she told me, I'd like to see myself being able to pay stuff while I'm sitting in this part of the region back in the US, for example. So you look at open banking on a global level.
Sure.
And I thought to myself, if I'm sitting in Bahrain or Jordan or Dubai, and I'm being able to pay for my things back in the US from my comfort zone on my mobile phone through that app, and not going through the hurdle of jumping from one app to the other, that would be amazing, right? And then
Absolutely.
I think Paul had some interesting stuff to say in that. I'll leave it to him as well.
Yeah, I think that it just proves that from a fintech perspective, it's not necessarily looking at the traditional banks or financial institutions of what is the norm, because people tend to follow. A bank opens up a student debit card, all of a sudden everybody's opening up a student debit card. But like Tamer said, you sit down with a layman, someone that does banking that's not involved in the sector, and you say, what would you like to see? So although Tamer and I sell very much B2B, there's a lot of B2C discussions that need to be had. What does the consumer actually want? What is the end client actually looking for? Because that's where the fintechs and the innovators need to be looking. Don't look at a bank at what they're doing and how you can better it. Go and look at what is going to make your life easier. What do you want to happen, and focus on those innovations. Innovations around regulatory frameworks, because every single country has got its own tweak in its regulatory environment. It's got its own tweak in its technological advancements, and it's got its own little tweak in its culture. So if you take those three aspects into account and you look at what the consumer is actually looking for, it can make a big difference.
Yeah, sure. And I think that's the big difference between innovation and optimization. And I think that a lot of times we do see, people just optimizing something that's already in existence and say, oh, now this is, like you mentioned, a student banking card, a student credit card, which is not that unique of a product compared to a traditional debit card or credit card. But hey, this one's designed for students, and there's a few things tweaked in mind to make sure that students are using it. But how innovative is that, really? And I think that Henry Ford has that famous quote that if he'd have asked people what do they want, they'd have said faster horses.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so it really comes down to just thinking of it from the consumer's point of view, the average layman's point of view, and say, all right, this is your life now. What are the obstacles that we see in it? Let's not think about necessarily what solutions already exist, but what is the best way to make your life easier? And I think that that's really what true innovation looks like.
Correct.
Yeah, but I mean, Stephen, innovation is always there. Technology is there, and technology comes before regulation. So the regulatory adoption also plays a very big role in this ecosystem. So you throw a lot of amazing ideas out of the box ideas. Sometimes you would call them crazy ideas, and if you don't have that being adopted by the regulatory framework or the regulators around you, some ideas either die early or takes years to see the light in general. So I've seen that in this part of the world, and some regulators are advanced, such as in Bahrain, and and UAE, of course, and others are following just now. But you need a global movement in that arena for things to get on a fast track, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we're very privileged in the UAE that, within my 8 years within this country, I've seen, a complete 180 from the way that payments were accepted when I first got here, where I tried to buy a meal in the mall and they only accepted cash, to now you can just swipe your phone pretty much anywhere, right?
Yeah.
And so it's very, very nice that we're in such a kind of a forward thinking country. But what do you think that regulators and innovators can do to work more closely together to sort of move technology forward faster?
Yeah, look, I think from a regulatory point of view, there is definitely something that they need to refine when it comes to the financial services industry. Specifically, if you're looking at mobile money versus the traditional bank. Mobile money operators in many areas have got away, or not got away, but they are able to push innovation a lot quicker than banks do, because regulators take a long time to allow them a bit of leeway, digital onboarding, those type of things. When you look at innovations on cloud computing, there's still a lot of data sovereignty issues where the central banks are pushing financial institutions to keep their core systems in country, whereas mobile network operators who play with mobile money, they get a lot more leeway. So I think a lot more collaboration from a regulatory point of view towards the financial sector to say, yes, let's keep the regulations tight and let's control it, but let's innovate quicker. Let's help you innovate quicker. Let's help you get onto the cloud where you can actually save money and focus more on your business. I think that's very key going forward.
That's great. That's a great solution, because when you really think about it, this is money we're dealing with, right? This is finances. You have to get it right, especially from a regulatory point of view. So as much as we would love to see, technology leading the way and, regulations just, keep up and pay attention, it is very important that regulations are in place to really make sure that, people are secure and they're safe with what is happening behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And they got to keep talking, because, regulators can't stifle digitization. The mobile network operators have been able to do this for years because they're less regulated. Now the banks are saying, we have to do this. The regulators have to step up and say, okay, let's work together to optimize this operation.
Yeah, sure. And so I guess that leads me to my next question. And I guess from a regulatory standpoint, but also, from your own standpoint as well, how do you recognize, when an idea is a winning idea and when it is worth investing in? And I was really originally going to ask this to you guys just from a conceptual point of view of, how do we know when it's a great idea? But now that we're talking about regulations, it kind of makes me think a little bit too of, how do regulators say, hey, this is something that's actually going to work. Maybe we should, figure out how to allow it to work, versus something that, hey, this is never going to work in the first place. So let's not even bother with spending our resources on finding guidelines around it.
Stephen, here, that's a really good question. And, it's 101 in the fintech space, at least from what I've learned the past 5 years, I would say. So, everyone knows scalability, affordability, and return on investment, right? So these three things, when you look at them, scalability is, is this scalable? Are there any limitations? Is it flexible? The idea itself with respect to the market and the market needs. And is the idea scalable enough to make money and, grow that business? Then you look at the affordability and how does it, compare to the alternative products in the market. ROI, of course, this is a rule of thumb. You need to look at the ROI from an investment perspective or investor's perspective. Is it short term or long term? Does the idea have a target market, and so on and so forth? But what I've learned the past, I would say, year and a half, is the value proposition, and what value does this bring to the already competitive market that is already congested with so many ideas and fintechs. And we're talking about really old organizations or century-old organizations. and very energetic startups are out there, perhaps in our own domain. So what makes it unique, and why would customers be excited to use it? So our conversations with our own customers is, technology is everywhere. You want technology, you can just go buy it from any other company. But how we work hand in hand with any organization, and what value proposition we work with them on for them to be able to achieve their goals and their pain points, and that's what makes you stand out there in the market, and makes your idea unique. And whether this is us investing in our own company, or someone is investing in us as a company in general.
Great. And I think that was a brilliant explanation. Honestly, anybody that's interested in starting their own fintech company, or they have a fintech idea, or any sort of technology that they want to see put in practice, I think that's winning advice for how to turn it into reality. So what do you think is the next big thing that we can see from Codebase?
I'll give that one to Paul.
Thanks, Tamer. There's the technology moves so quickly, and like one of our clients always said, it's like an incomplete orb. There's always room for enhancement. There's always room for improvement. Obviously, in today's time, the hot topic is buy now, pay later. Everybody's talking about BNPL. So you've got to, as a fintech, like with Codebase, obviously we can't divulge all our secrets, but you've got to have a constant roadmap that you're working towards. So plan for the future, and always have something in the engine room, because if you're not continuously enhancing your product offering to your customers, you're falling behind. And you have to accept change. Change is the one constant. So when Absolutely. COVID happens, change is going to happen. And are you ready to adapt to that change? So from a Codebase Technologies perspective, we are working in the background to ensure that our products and services and offerings are dynamic enough to be able to turn a ship very, very quickly. If something happens, how do you adapt very quickly? If circumstances change, how do you enhance your offering to your customers very quickly? So our focus is very much on providing the latest and greatest solutions, but enabling all our customers to make very rapid decisions. Tamer was talking about return on investment. How do you get your return on investment quickly? Is rapid time to market. So we move you into any change quickly, so that you can see your return on investment a lot quicker. You make money a lot quicker. So that's a lot of our focus when it comes to our roadmap. Look at the technological advances, but look how we can scale you and get your return on investment a lot quicker.
That's great.
Stephen, Paul just mentioned a few minutes ago, we do B2B, right? But, our customers are B2C. And, when we look at our R&D and what it involves a lot of discussion, with those clients or partners, if you like. And, our diverse clients have the, enviable position of access to loads of customer data. So they know the behavior, right? And what they know firsthand what their customers need. And, we keep listening and keeping those conversations going. And that gives us an immense, or big ideas on where the direction is going, and how we can, bring the technology closer to the needs of those people via our customers. So, that's how we look at it.
Yeah, sure. So I guess one of how do you stay so agile? I think is a big question, but especially when your clients or institutions. How do your clients, stay on top of the trends or ahead of the trends? Do they predict them before they happen, or is it, embedded within their culture and processes of whenever something big happens? How do these big institutions and Codebase themselves stay agile and able to adapt to the market?
Paul, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think FinTech Surge is events like yourselves. It definitely spearheads discussions. So you have to, as much as we push our customers to remain relevant with their customers, we have to remain relevant within our industry. So GITEX, Fintech Surge, these type of events, presence is very important so that you have conversations with your competitors, because even, looking at the financial institutions where they all want to do their own thing, the fact is collaboration or collaborate to innovate is extremely important. If you're not collaborating with your competitors and your peers to innovate, you're going to fall behind. You can't do everything by yourself.
That's
so
right.
Be there, listen to people, listen to your competitors, find out what's happening in the market, talk to the business, but also talk to the consumer, like Tamer said. Don't sit down and have a conversation with your wife. Say, what would you actually like to see in the banking industry? So taking all that information, remaining relevant, and being able to adapt very quickly. I think those are the basic fundamentals.
Absolutely. So, one of the biggest takeaways from this is, talk to your wife. She'll tell you
the wife is always right, Stephen.
Absolutely. We'll make sure we get a sound clip of just that, and we'll add that for all of our marketing. Listen to your wife is the key to fintech. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Honestly, I think that it's been a very good conversation. You've opened up a lot of insights. One of my biggest curiosities was one of the ones that you just answered, is how do you stay agile? How does such a big industry such as finance and technology, how does it stay ahead of the curve? And I think that you guys, you really know how to listen to your customers and listen to your customers, because that's at the end of the day, the consumers is what the market is. And if your customers aren't making money, then Codebase isn't making money, which means that you can't stay business and you can't continue to offer innovative solutions that are changing the world and granting access to finances that we all need. So thank you very much for your time, guys. I really look forward to seeing you in Dubai for the FinTech Surge, co-located with GITEX 2022, October 10th to 13th, and I can't wait to meet you guys in person.
Likewise, Stephen. Thank you very much for hosting us today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for listening. Subscribe for all the latest updates on FinTech in the Middle East and join the conversation over on our social channels. We look forward to seeing you at FinTech Surge in the Dubai World Trade Center from October 10th to October 13th. I'm Stephen Besse, and this has been the FinTech Surge podcast, creating a wealth of opportunities.